Good morning, everybody. I hope that you're joining us today because you have an interest in government contracting, because this is all about government contracting today. And my name is Jill Nagy Reynolds, and I'm with the SBA Columbus District Office. And this webinar training today is a part of a series of webinar trainings leading up to the Ohio Business Matchmaker, which will be on May 8th and 9th at the Nutter Center in Dayton. So we've been putting quite a bit of work into it. We've put together a really good agenda. We're getting a lot of buyers to register, both state agencies and federal agencies. So this is really a time for all small businesses to go and meet with government customers in person. It's a really rare opportunity to meet with a whole lot of agencies under one house and one roof. So we're really hoping that these webinar trainings will help to prepare you for that event, and then also give you some tools for after the event. So just some housekeeping things before we begin. So this is being recorded, as you heard. The recording is going to become available on the Ohio Business Matchmaker website in about a week. If you go to the Ohio Business Matchmaker website, and I'll put it into the chat, there is a tab for webinar registration. It says when you click on that tab, all of our past events will have a link to the recording and the slides. So today's slides are also going to become available to anyone who is interested. If you have any colleagues after you've attended this training and you're like, wow, I really wish that my colleague could have been on this, well, there's going to be a recording. So please keep that in mind. And it looks like we did put that into the chat. Thank you very much, Joey. So I will go ahead and introduce our speakers for today. And you see Billy right there, but Billy Grill is the Associate Director of Southwest Ohio Apex Accelerator at Ohio University. So the SBA has the pleasure of working with Apex Accelerators on a regular basis, and we're very, very happy to be able to bring you this presentation. And we also have Joey Scott, who is with the State of Ohio Apex Accelerator. He is the program manager. So, and then we also have Karen Wyville. She is going to present after Billy today, and she is the Associate Director for Central Ohio. So all of you are in very, very good hands today, and it's a smaller group. So what I'll do, if you have questions, please put them in the chat, but we can also go live if it's a question that we just can't get sorted out through the chat. So just remember, there's really no such thing as a bad question in government contracting, because it can be a little bit muddy. But you're with your government-backed resource here. So we try and give you just as much information as we can. So without further ado, Billy, I'm going to go ahead and have you get started, and I will monitor the chat and just interject when questions come through.
Perfect. I appreciate the introduction. And I'm putting up my screen share so that we can see my presentation. So what I'll be doing today, everybody, is really running you through what I call the fire hose of marketing to the federal government. We're going to show you how to market, how to connect the dots and make data-driven decisions, and also why the federal government. Why do we want to market to the federal government? And I always say they're a great customer because A, they always pay on time, and B, they always have more work, but C, they're really just a gracious customer. And you'll see some of the stats backing that up here in the presentation. So let me go ahead and throw this in presentation mode. Does everybody see that okay? Are we good to go?
Yep, you're good.
Awesome. Okay, so what we're going to cover today is the overall federal market, GovCon process, tips and tricks, and some do's and don'ts. And don't worry, we're not going to death by PowerPoint today. I will get through these slides as quick as I can so that we can get to a live demo on some of the tools that we use to help you find out who's buying what you're selling. So this is just an overview of our services. I always like to start with this slide because a lot of people don't understand the full scope of what we provide. We provide basically everything from A to Z when it comes to working with federal, state, and local governments. That's everything from certifications all the way through helping you through your proposal development process. And then even after the award, things like kickoff meetings, how to communicate with the customer best, things of that nature. So when I always say, when in doubt, even if you think it's outside of what we do, reach out to your local counselor, because if we aren't the resource, we can get you to the right resource. So consider this: the federal market is a huge market, so over 600+ billion, and that's actually, I think it's more like 645 now. Again, all on-time payment, great customer, but also it's a great way to diversify your client base. So if you're currently working in the commercial space right now, the chances of the government buying something that you're providing commercially is very high. So what do they buy? Practically everything. There's some things that the federal government doesn't buy a lot of, but overall they buy everything from toothbrushes to atomic bombs, and everything in between. So really what you want to think about is, do you have past performance, which is recent and relevant success that you can prove to the government your ability to fulfill the contract? And then you can take that recent relevant success and you can really build a government profile based off that. Do you have adequate financial resources? Just because you can provide 20 people commercially for a service or building a product, when you work in the federal government space, they may request 5,000 or 200. So do you have the ability to scale? And are you willing to invest the time and resources to work with the government? I always like to manage processes or manage expectations. It is a longer sales cycle. I mean, you are up against a 12 to 48 month sales cycle in some circumstances, but once you're in and you do a good job, you will be in and you'll have that advanced knowledge that a lot of commercial companies don't have. And that's why we're here. We're here to help you work efficiently through that process, and hopefully get you to the goal of getting that first time award with the government. I always like to put this chart up here. This is the new entrance chart that the government is actually tracking. So what does that tell you? Well, it tells you that the government is really looking for new blood, new contractors, new small businesses to enter the market. They have seen a huge decline in small business competition over the last 10, 20 years. So they've actually started putting together these graphs and these charts to actively track how they're getting new entrants into the market, what the new entrants look like. And that's part of what we're charged with as well at the Apex Accelerator, is helping to get those new entrants procurement ready and provide good service and competition to the government. So what is an opportunity? An opportunity is when you have a requirement plus funding. A lot of people have a requirement without funding. Very few people have funding without a requirement. But overall, you need to understand, and we can help you get this data of who has the requirement that you can fulfill with the funding to pay you for that service or product. These are some of the basic procurement methods. It runs from everything from your basic RFP, request for proposal, or request for quote, all the way through some of your more advanced research and development contracts, like your small business innovation research and your other transactional authorities, and everything in between. When you're first looking at the market, my suggestion to my clients is, let's look at either micro purchases or opportunities under the simplified acquisition threshold. You're either looking at that to go direct to the government, or you're looking at subcontracting opportunities. A great way in is to build those teaming relationships and just become a subcontractor until you really understand the process. So here's my basic 3-pronged marketing approach. We want to make sure that you're receiving the bids to win, And we provide that to you with our bid match service, which is basically a search profile we set up for you that sends an email to your inbox every day. It searches over 2,000 federal, state, and local databases, and it gives you opportunities straight to your email based on your search criteria that we help you set up. The other one that is sort of my favorite that we'll be looking at a lot today is your organic marketing. Let's find out who's buying what you're selling. Let's prioritize that top 5 or top 10. Let's do outreach with our capability statement, which Karen will be covering after me, in order to develop a relationship and develop your own opportunities. This is the long-term approach, but it is very fruitful when it comes to that strategic growth. And the third one is network, network, network. As a small business in the government space, you have to do. That is going to be your force multiplier. That's going to be how you create those relationships of others you know, like, and trust, and you start competing at a higher level. You can do that through industry associations, which there's a ton of in this space. You can do that by industry days and going and learning more about the client, but also learning more about the contractors that are already servicing that client. And then, of course, your teaming and subcontracting that comes after you develop that relationship. So client profiles. This is really how you start to market. This is going to be, what have you done recently on the commercial side of the business, or even on the state and local, or even on the government? What was your size? What was the contract amount? How many people were there? How many products did you sell? Because you're going to use that in order to develop a client profile for your government prospect. And then you can also target using industry verticals, capability, mission, and technology. So for example, if you provide Oracle database and it's got business objects attached to it, well, then you might want to start searching for other organizations that have Oracle databases with business objects. You can also look at industry verticals. So if you service the medical industry on the commercial side and you provide staffing for nurses, well, maybe you want to look at the Defense Health Agency or the Health and Human Services Agency, CDC, et cetera. Maybe you want to target those folks that are on the medical side of things. And then know your goaling. Every government agency has a small business goaling report. Basically, they have to give so much business to small businesses, women-owned small businesses, 8As, hub zones, service-disabled vets. So knowing that above or beforehand can help you prioritize the list and help you reach out very efficiently, knowing what their goals are and if they have met their goals or not. These are going to be some market research tools that we use. Today, I'm really going to focus on usaspending.gov, and I'll take you through a little bit of sam.gov as well. So usaspending.gov is going to be your past contracts. It's got a huge amount of data. It is not the authoritative data source. Your authoritative source is Federal Procurement Data System, but usaspending.gov also includes past grants. They include agency profiles. They include some subcontracting. So it's really a one-stop shop to get a full picture of your market research. We also have some internal tools that we can use here at the Apex Accelerator, FedMine and Easy GovOps. While we can pull company profiles and things like that, we do use them sparingly with clients. We really like our clients to know what is available publicly. And those systems, those public systems, feed these systems either way. And then, of course, our bid match emails. Highly suggest that when you get with your Apex Accelerator counselor, that you develop some really good criteria to set up your bid match emails. Keywords, your North American Industrial Classification System codes, your NAICS codes, product service codes, your geographical area, and things of that nature will really help us target that bid match email so that you're getting useful information every day. So doing outreach. Now that we've done our market research and we have our top 5, our top 10 agencies, sub-agencies, we've got our top 5, our top 10 prime contractors we want to reach out to. Do your research. Each and every single government agency speaks their own language. As you can see already through this presentation, there are a lot of acronyms. It's a lot of acronym soup. And you really want to know that language before you start doing your outreach. That means their strategic plans, past contracts, budgets, things of that nature. The great thing about the government is all of this data is public. The bad thing is all of the data is public, so it's a lot to get through. When you do your outreach, 1 to 2 minute read, brevity is key. You don't need paragraphs. You really want to start strong and make an impact right off the bat, who you are, what you do, what your value is. And then you want to ask some specific questions to learn more about their agency. Now, I always say go to the agency small business website first, because some of the information may be posted there. And if you don't do your research and you end up asking a question that's public information, then they'll just kick you back to their website, knowing that you haven't done your research. It is a lot of legwork to develop these marketing strategies and do your research before outreach. But it is paramount that you do this so that you can talk intelligently to the prospect and hopefully gain an in and start a conversation to develop that relationship. So tips and tricks. Again, know your customer's language, do your research beforehand, know their acronym soup, prioritize your targets, use your network if you can. If you have some colleagues that are already in the government space, talk with them, get their feedback. If you've come from the government and you want to start a consultancy to go back in, obviously use your government network. I would do your legwork and investigate. Again, all of this data is public. And hopefully at the end of this presentation and demo, you guys will have a good idea of how to take that data and make it actionable. So again, marketing, this is kind of a recap. Do your market research, look at the agency strategic plan. Every agency has one. And then look at your opportunity forecast as well. Use your capability statement, and Karen will tell you all about that in the next hour. And then use your agency contacts. Every agency has a small business champion, whether it is part of the Office of Small Business Programs, Office of Small Disadvantaged Underutilized Business, OSDBU, I think, and I probably just butchered that acronym, or even the Small Business SBA has procurement center representatives as well. So there are a lot of people that will advocate and a lot of resources you can use to start really demystifying doing business with the government, with us being one of them as well. So do know your customer, know the rules. We are guided by the Federal Acquisition Regulation, the FAR. But we're very much a relationship-based business. So you have to know both of those. And then always perform. Never overpromise, always overdeliver. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Never submit a proposal late. They will not accept it. Never be late for appointments. Really just be a good corporate citizen in a responsible company. And that will definitely help you in the long run. And of course, don't drag out your presentations. So with that, we're going to head into the demo. And what I will do is start a new share here. Let me just stop share. Before I get into the demo, does anybody have any questions? I know that was really quick through the slide deck. And hopefully the demo will explain a little bit more to you guys about how to pull some of this data in and digest it.
I don't see anything in the Q&A. If
Perfect.
anyone has any questions, just go ahead and put them into the Q&A. All right.
So anything coming through, Joe?
Nope, not so far. I'll let you know.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So basically where we're going to start, everybody, is knowing your NAICS codes. I'm going to use an example of, I'm an electrical contractor. I can service all of Ohio, and I want to work with my top 5, top 10 potential agencies. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come to usaspending.gov. usaspending.gov, as we mentioned before, is all of your past government contracts. It is not up to date. It actually has a lag from federal procurement data. But overall, for our purposes, this is probably going to be the best market research tool that you'll get for free. You don't have to log in. Everything's publicly available. So what I want to do here, this criteria here on your left-hand side, this is really where you're building your client profile at. So when I say recent and relevant, I probably only want the last 5 or 6 years of data, so that we're not getting a whole lot of junk in there that's not really current. And as you can see, I just pulled my NAICS code. So that's 238210. I always start off with my NAICS code. So you can either type in the code, or you can actually search the different codes by typing in a keyword. I usually find out first 238210. Those are my electrical contractors. And then also my location. I service the state of Ohio, so I'm going to pick Ohio. Now you can also scope down using different search criteria here. If you have a specific agency in mind, you can search for that. Another popular search criteria is the award amount. So if you've never had a contract over $3 million, well, then you probably want to set the award amount to $3 million and below, so that you have recent relevant past performance for that contract. You can also search for the type of set aside. So talking about those small business goals, if you're a woman-owned small business, a veteran-owned small business, you can search for which agencies are letting out those specific contracts. Overall, there's a great amount of data here, but we'll just keep it simple. We want the last 5 years. We want the state of Ohio, which you should add the filter for. And then we want our basic NAICS code. So I submit the search. Okay, let's do that again. Of course, when you're doing a live demo, something is bound to go wrong. So let's go ahead and run through that one more time. And sometimes it does get hung up when you use this every day. And I actually use usaspending.gov every single day. It's such a great tool with so much potential. Go ahead and add that. Okay, so what we will do here, thank God I have a backup. Basically what comes up is your contracts and all of your information. The real value of this search right here is the ability to download it into a spreadsheet. And that's what I've done earlier, because I was prepared for scenario B, C, D, and E. But you'll see when you do this search, it does come up with some nice information here. It comes up with some of the contracts and some of the other information. But once I download it, I can get so much more information out of this search. So basically what we're looking at here is what I've downloaded from that exact search. So this is the search for electricians in Ohio for the last 5 years. Now, this is a lot of data. And that's not something that I want to sort through. So what I'm going to do here is just basically create a pivot table with my data. So we will go with pivot table. We've already selected our range, the whole worksheet. We'll set it up in a new worksheet. And so this is going to give me some options. What I really want to know here is I want to know how much money they've spent on the contract, so your total obligated amount. I also want to know who the awarding sub-agency is. And then I can even get you down to the awarding office. So these are all electrician contracts that have been lit in the last 5 years in Ohio. Now, what do I do with this data? Well, I want to sort it from most to least so that I'm prioritizing that outreach. So just a quick sort and filter, sort from largest to smallest. So you can see the Department of Veteran Affairs is probably going to be my top target. They have a couple of different offices, and then you can look at the next one down will be the Department of Air Force. And I can tell you just by some local knowledge, and that's another thing, when you set up your pivot table and you have your top 5, top 10, let us review it with you, and we can kind of give you some of our local knowledge. So I know that this is right, Pat, this is right, Pat, this is right, Pat, and this is right, Pat. So we know that Wright Pat Air Force Base is buying what we're selling. Federal Acquisition Service, that is a GSA schedule. So we'll probably discount that unless we have a schedule. Then your Public Building Service, and then your Department of the Army. So we'll probably do some research on these different districts. Great thing about the U.S. Army Corps of U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is their districts are pretty localized, but they do a lot around all kinds of public works. So they're a great outreach if you're in construction as a whole, after you've done your market research. And then we have some other ones, EPA, NASA, Department of State, et cetera, National Park Service. But overall, you can kind of see where this data is going to give me my list of targets. I know who's spending money on what I'm selling. And so I can do my outreach, again, after I investigate and hopefully get to a good contact that I can discuss intelligently with how we can help them achieve their goals. Another thing about this sheet is, again, setting up a pivot table. We can actually tell total obligated amounts, who the top prime contractors are. So if we're not ready to go in direct to the agency, what we can do is we can come down here and we can say, okay, this is the recipient name. We can even see what agency they're working with. So we can go into the sub-agency name, and now we can tell who they're working with, and we can actually do some outreach and say, hey, we know ABC Electric, we know you guys are working with the Forest Service and the National Park Service. We'd love to team on some work together. Or do you have any needs that we may be able to help you with as a subcontractor? And so if we come in here, sort and filter, largest to smallest, now we know who the big guys are and we know where they're working. So it's a great way to not just reach out directly to the government, but to also maybe put a top 5, a top 10 together on the industry side. Another great thing to note is when you are doing these searches, I just did a search for an electrician. But who uses electricians? Who has complementary services? Well, you might want to also search for general contractors. And so that'll be 236115. We'll just call it that. So we can reset the search here. Last 5 years. We can go down here to our handy dandy NAICS codes. 236 115. New single family housing. We'll just go with residential building as a whole. So we will go ahead and set our state, which is Ohio, and then submit our search. Of course, there's an error again. But overall, you need to think not just going directly to the government, but also looking at people you can potentially team with, people that have complementary services. Again, this tool is great for a plethora of uses and data. Another thing you can look at is when we're looking at some of these agencies, for example, Veterans Affairs, since they're buying so much electrician work, we can get a pretty decent agency profile, which is an overview, a status of funds. We can look at some of their overall spending. But the other thing that I really like about that is the ability to get to their congressional budget justification. So remember, when I said that you need a requirement and you need funding, this is a good way to see where they're spending their money. Are they spending it on renovations? Are they spending most of it on IT? So this will kind of give you a good, it's an overview, but it's a way for you to start seeing where the money's going, and most importantly, what kind of language they're using. A lot of program acronyms are in there. And then, quite honestly, you could just go Veterans Affairs Strategic Plan. And I know I fat fingered that, but it'll still come up. Some light Googling, guys. It really makes life simple. So now we have their strategic plan. We know what their budget justification is. We know that they're spending money on what we're selling. So that's really going to be a lot of your investigation there. So what do we do with all of this investigation? Well, before we do any outreach whatsoever, we go to Veterans Affairs Small Business Office. Every single agency you have or you target will have some kind of small business champion. So really what you're doing here is you're wanting to know, okay, what are they working on? You want to know how to do business with the agency. And a great example that I really like is when we were looking at this chart. If we go back to this, U.S. Army Corps Louisville District, they spend a lot of money on electrician services, $861,000 to be exact over the last 5 years. So what you can do there is you can get pretty specific. You can say U.S. ACE Louisville District Small Business. So now you have their small business website. The thing I really like what they do here with the U.S. Army Corps, they post a district forecast so you know what's coming up. They post their prime construction contractors. So it's people already on contract that you can do outreach to try to start that relationship. They post their open house presentations. They have it once a year, every January. And then they also have these cool things called Dodax. Another thing about going to this small business website is they usually have a workflow email. If they have a protocol for doing outreach and they give you an email, use that email. It will help them efficiently refer you throughout their organization. And you can see they always tell you to reach out to us as well. But overall, on their small business website, there's just so much more information that you want to know before you do outreach. So if I reach out to their small business email and I ask them for a forecast, well, they're just going to point me back to their website. You want to be able to speak to them intelligently, and really develop that relationship by letting them know, hey, I did my market research. I'm working with my Apex Accelerator. I've looked at your forecast. And then, that lets them know that you've done your legwork and that you're serious about doing business with them. One thing that I will note here is your DODAX. So these are really helpful when you're searching sam.gov. They are basically the first 6 digits of any contract number. So for example, if I'm looking at my data and I see all of these award numbers, so your DODAC is going to be these 6 digits. And you can do a lot of cool things with your DODAC. And we're going to get into that now. So let's just take an example. The Louisville district, the DODAC is W912QR. So when I'm looking at sam.gov for my current opportunities, I basically want to set up 3 different searches. Since we're looking at current opportunities, these are contract opportunities. Now remember, usaspending.gov has all your past contracts. That is who has bought what you're selling. sam.gov is going to be your current and future opportunities. So we'll do the same exact thing. You can see the search criteria here basically mirrors that in USA Spending. So we want our NAICS code 238210 for electrical contractors. Then we want our place of performance. And there may not be a ton that come out. So you have 2 that are out of Ohio. You can always expand your search as well. But basically what we want to do is we want to save this search down. You have to sign in, but then it's top right corner where you can save the search. So that's going to be something that, we want to make sure that you have this search set up. You may see this in our bid match emails, but it's always good to have a backup as well. Now, talking about the DODAX that we just looked at, the 9W912QR. So we know the US Corps in Louisville buys what we sell. So we want to just get their opportunities. So if you know that DODAC or that contract number, we can just type it into SAM, and you can have multiple DODACs that you put in here, but you can see that it gets us all the way down to the office level with just opportunities coming out from the Corps of Engineers. And that's really helpful when you're trying to get down to a granular search really quickly. And I know this is kind of your fire hose introduction to all of this data. The one thing that if you don't take anything else from today, what you should take is you can always call us to help you set up these searches and do your market research. Actually, right after this, I'm driving to a client's site to sit down with them and set up their market research and help them set up some of these searches and help them digest the data. It's something that, I'm a recovering data wonk, but overall, it's necessary for you guys to really get this picture. And it's something that at least I enjoy doing. I know not every counselor does. It's just, it will give you so much visibility into who you should be reaching out to, efficiently moving through your next steps in the process, and hopefully having some success. The last search that I will show you how to set up is, it's actually called an industry day search. So not only does the government set up and post their opportunities to sam.gov, but they also post, and we'll just do residential building again. Actually, we'll do industrial building. But they also do something under the special notices where they post events and chances to connect. So you can do industry days, you can do site visit. So if you, again, need help setting up these searches, we're always there to help you. But overall, really what you want to do, you want to figure out who's buying what you're selling and do your research there. Grab your top 10 out of usaspending.gov. And then also your top 10 contractors, your top 10 primes that you can potentially do business with. And then you also want to make sure that your sam.gov searches are set up so that you can view opportunities, view industry days, hopefully connect with the client. Once you have that top 5, that top 10, always do your investigation. Look at their strategic plans. Look at their different mission briefs and things they have to brief industry. And then my suggestion, your best way in is to go through the small business website. Now that's what I just gave you is about 3 separate meetings that I do with my clients. I do a meeting on just market research. And then we do a meeting on now that they've got their top 5, their top 10, I help them do some of this investigation and get some contacts to reach out to from the small business office. And then we do another meeting on some of the prime contractors that they're interested in. Because, one thing that we can do on our end, and I'll just show you some quick behind the scenes, is if we do have a prime contractor, we'll call it high voltage maintenance core. What we can do on our end is take you through a company profile that we keep. Now, again, this is an internal database that we use. But yeah, if we have a couple of top priority contacts, high voltage maintenance core. High voltage maintenance core, they're in Dayton, Ohio. Here's our FedMine UEI. But we can pretty easily get you to a company profile and a government contact. So it looks like Eric Nation is the government contact. Again, never reach out to a government or never reach out to a company or a government agency without doing your research. This is a lot of the research that you could do, telling them which agencies, which subawards, things like that. Another place where you can do some free market research is going to be back at USA Spending. USA Spending has this recipient profile list. So we will go with high voltage maintenance core. And hopefully it gives us something other than an error.
I'm
There
not
we
sure
go.
what's going on with it today.
It's Jill, I've been on this for the last 4 hours, so it's probably just not liking me.
It's just saying that's enough for you today, sir.
Right. Yeah. Stop taking all of our data and sharing it. But overall, we'll just look at Lockheed Martin Global. If it gives it to me. But Jill, we adapt and conquer. We always have a way to educate the masses.
Absolutely. Yep. You had everything ready to go. So that's major kudos there.
It's not the first time that this has happened. So overall though, the point of this part of the exercise is if you have, for example, some competitors that are your competitors. You can see how much I searched this. This is just in the last couple of days, I think. But if you have competitors that are your competitors, you might want to search them in here because it gives you their top 5 agencies, top 5 sub-agencies, top 5 NAICS codes, top 5 product service codes. It gives you a trend line on their revenue. It is some really good competitor intel. And my suggestion to my clients is, if you have a direct competitor, why wouldn't you reach out to the agencies that they're doing business with? You know they work with your competitor, so reach out and compete. All is fair in love and business. You can also take the codes that they use and use those codes for market research. Use them for your SAM.gov searches. So there really is a lot that you can do with this data. Try not to get paralysis by analysis. I know there's a lot of rabbit holes you can go down through this, but overall, it's all right here at our fingertips. Everything you need to know to make a great marketing plan, a great outreach plan, and hopefully a great impact to the customer is right here. It's all public. So with that, have about 10 minutes left. I'm going to open it up for questions. I hope everybody's eyes didn't glaze over when I was running through that exercise. It's a lot to get through. I wanted to take you from A to Z. I got you close, but it's not if, it's when you have questions. And really that's what I want to foot stomp, is the fact that we are here because we know I've been doing this for 20 years. I know you're not going to pick it up in a day. But always happy to help where we can and answer anything you guys might need.
Well, I certainly appreciate your time, and Joey's asking, please put it in the Q&A. But I will tell you, just working in the government space for the last 12 years, 15 years, this is truly the way to find out who your customers are. It does take quite a bit of market research, which is what we're talking about here. And I call it owning the agony, because it's the more that you're able to learn how to navigate these sites, which there is a huge wealth of information available, which you don't have in the private sector. It's a lot, but Apex accelerators can help you sift through all of that, which is amazing. It looks like we got a question. Do you have a manual for doing the research? Which we did. That's a good question, but
I should probably put one together, to be quite honest with you. I really like to take my clients to customized research. I think there's something of value there, because when we are doing research together and I'm learning more about your company, then I can start making suggestions and I can better help you. The more I know about what you do and what your value prop is, the more that we can really customize the information. For example, if you do electrician work, but you specialize in very high voltage situations or very tall power lines, that will help me get you from installing a socket somewhere in a residential building to here's your real customer. And we're pretty efficient in trying to do that. And plus, when I help you, you get a lot of my localized knowledge. And that goes with any Apex counselor anywhere. If you took me away from Dayton and put me at Redstone Arsenal, I become half as valuable as I am knowing our localized area. Karen knows a ton more about Northeast Ohio, Central Ohio than I do. So really, we're a global organization with a very local value. And I think that really helps us help you.
And that I just want to piggyback on that a little bit, because every industry is unique. And the search that Billy, that you just did for electrical contractors would take you, if you're in IT or you're in marketing, it'll take you down a different rabbit hole. So taking the time to meet with an Apex accelerator and then writing, and it takes time. I mean, you'll get better at all of these systems over time, but taking notes and practicing will help you get results. At first, it's going to be a little bit muddy, but the more you do it, the better it gets. And then also another tool that will help, like Billy was talking about, industry days. Those are specific to federal government. So essentially, federal agencies, they will have events either annually, biannually, when they are looking to find new contractors. And industry days are a great way for you to go and learn about federal agencies, what they're buying, and how your business fits in with that. And the face-to-face interaction is priceless, because you can also meet with other small business and they might be small businesses that do what you do, but in federal government, those are your potential teaming partners. So that's getting yourself out there is really one of the keys to success.
And get on the small business office email list. I know that every small business office at Wright Pat, EPA, U.S. Army Corps, they all have an email list that they send information out to, and it's really valuable stuff.
Well, I hope that everyone that attended your session, Billy, learned a lot, and that we'll see you all at the Matchmaker. But I hope you have a successful meeting this afternoon. It sounds like you're going to be on the road here shortly. So I don't see any more questions coming through. So Karen, if you are ready, we can go ahead and get you started. If you can turn your camera on and get your presentation in there. It looks like you're getting started. And actually, that's you, Billy, isn't it? Oh, there she is.
Nope. We are all well branded.
Yeah,
and
okay,
consistent.
yes. I'm like, that looks like that's the branding. Okay,
Yep.
awesome. Love it. Okay, well, thank you so much, Billy, and everyone. Just remember that the recording will become available on the Ohio Business Matchmaker website in about a week. So without further ado, Karen Wyville is the Associate Director for Central Ohio, the Ohio Apex Accelerator at Ohio University. And she is going to, Billy made mention of capability statements, and you may have heard of them before, and maybe you have one, but it never hurts to get additional information on capability statements, their importance. I work with firms that are certified in the 8A program, and part of what I do is look at their marketing tools for federal government. And I would say that 9 times out of 10, there's room for improvement. So you will also use a capability statement if you intend to go to the Ohio Business Matchmaker and meet with government buyers. It's a very important tool for your business when you're marketing to not only federal government, but state and local. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Karen. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Hi, everybody. We're going to go over capability statements. It's one of the things I love helping clients on. I'm going to discuss how to create a good one. And let me get there we go. We're going to talk about what the uses are of a capability statement. What are the specific elements that you need to have in a capability statement, and what you can do to make sure your capability statement stands out in a crowd. First of all, what is a capability statement? For those that don't know, it's your door opener for your business. It is used when agencies are prime contractors. It can be used when they're doing market research on who out there can help them out. And it can often also be a required part of a response to a government solicitation. We're going to talk about all of those uses. First of all, what the elements are. When you're putting together a capability statement, you want to make sure you call it a capability statement, and it's going to have some very important topic areas. You're going to have a core competency section, a past performance section, a differentiative section, and then company data. And I'm going to go over each of those sections. First of all, calling it the capability statement. Put that in your header, but you also want to make sure you have your company name and your company logo. When you're trying to put it together, I always recommend make sure it matches your corporate branding. Is it matching your website? Make it look, having that cohesive marketing approach in your design and their color scheme, in your fonts that you use, Make it a cohesive marketing approach that your business cards, your website, your capability statement, all have that cohesive approach to make it stand out that it's your company. You're also going to make sure that you have your business name, your business address, your physical address, and your website, and have that link put onto your on your capability statement. Core competencies section. This is the section that explains to the government buyers or the prime contractors on what you do. Call it core competencies. You're going to explain in bullet point format on what your company does. I recommend you really focus on what your company does best, especially when you're targeting it to the specific audience. And Billy did a fantastic job on how to do that market research to target your competencies to the agency or prime that you're marketing to. You don't want to use a lot of text. They get a lot of these. So you want to be very specific, brief, and to the point, focusing on these keywords. When you're doing it in the business, in an in-person event, like the Ohio Business Matchmaker, they want to be able to scan it quickly. But also if you're going to be sending this out, there are some agencies and primes that use AI and they look for those keywords. So making sure you use the keywords that are very specific to what you're doing is really key in making sure it's delivering a good product that is going to benefit you when you're marketing yourself. Past performance. This is, think of this as your references section on a resume. It's showing that you're going to make it call it the past performance, but this is the proof of you can do what you say you can do. So we recommend you provide a really brief description of the type of work that you did, the name of the client, and contact info. Make sure you're targeting your past performance to the person you're giving this to. So if you're doing this to, let's say, like if you've done homework and construction in the commercial section, and you're doing it for commercial contracting, put only the work that you did in your commercial contracting. Make sure it's relevant. If your work doesn't pertain to that opportunity at all, they don't care what you did. They want to know what you did that pertains to what we're looking for. So make sure you include that information only. I've provided some examples on how to write it. You don't have to follow this exactly, but different ways to think of it. If you were the prime contractor and doing that particular product sale or service, you're going to say, this is what you did. This is who you did it to or for. And then you're going to talk about, was it the contract size? Did it provide a benefit to the company? Something really brief. If you had a contract number, when it's a federal government, you're going to provide the contract number and then give the contact reference. Remember, only provide the reference to that person if they're still with the agency. If they're no longer there, providing that reference isn't going to help you out at all. You can still talk about it, but you can't provide the reference information. Now, if you're a subcontractor, especially with the government, if you provided the work, let's say, since we're talking about electrical contractors and general construction, if you were an electrical subcontract to a large construction firm, write it like that, because the contract number is going to, and name is going to be under the general contractor. So you provided this work on this large federal contract. This is what you did for them. And then you're going to provide the contact information for your prime that you worked with. Now, if you don't have any work as under your company name, let's say you're newer getting started, but you have a lot of expertise in your area, you can still talk about that, improving yourself, your performance in there, that you did this work as an employee of the company who was doing that work for the government or for the prime. And this is just, again, just an example. Again, what not to use. Don't use a past performance project if it does not relate to the target agency's needs. They aren't going to care. And again, don't provide the reference if they're not available. If they're no longer at the company or they're no longer at the government agency. Differentiators. This is the one area that I find my clients have the biggest struggle. They're really good at what they do, but oftentimes they have a hard time communicating or feel uncomfortable communicating on what makes them so great. differentiators, that's what it is. It's what is it that you do, the features or benefits of your products or your services that set it apart from your competitors. Why should they buy the product or service from you versus who they're already selling it or buying it from? So some thinking points on how to come up with this. Who was your biggest customer? There's a reason your biggest customer keeps coming back to you. Why? Knowing that is really, really important. Understanding why your company is the best choice for this opportunity or agency. Do that market research. Do that competitive analysis over who they're currently doing work from and buying the work from. Why are you better? Why are your options better than who they're currently working from? What is it that stands out? Do you have a better, I'm drawing a blank here. Better education? Do you have certain certifications, professional certifications or honors that make you stand out? Do you have a better quality assurance program at your company? What is it that makes you a better solution? Or sometimes if you're located closer to the facility, that's a targeted area. If you're closer and you can respond to a need quicker than others that they currently work from, that could be a differentiator for you. So you want to do that competitive analysis. On this, make it short and to the point, focus on the needs of the buyer. Highlight the benefits to the customer. You're there to solve a need. You're there to solve a problem. How is your company the best solution to their issue, to their problems? And be specific. Provide the proof or, like you have the better certifications, you had a better on-time delivery, different things that you can say that make you stand out. Differentiators that you should not use. Socioeconomic certifications are not a differentiator. I always call those the sprinkles on your cupcake. They're buying a good cupcake. So what makes you really good? Generic statements, stay away from those. Anyone can say they're best in class. Anyone could say they're an industry leader. My biggest one I hate saying is outstanding customer service. What does that mean? Quality committed. What does that mean? Give some examples. If you want to say you're quality committed, talk about your quality assurance and what kind of quality standards that you meet. Are you ISO certified if you're a manufacturer? Do you have a dedicated quality control plan that your company follows? Outstanding customer service. What makes it outstanding? Is it that you have a 24-hour response time to any customer inquiries? Do you have a 24-hour service line? What is it that makes your customer service outstanding? What makes your products best in class? Is it that they last longer, are top seller? What makes it? Be specific. Don't just use generic terms. You have to prove it. Proof's in the pudding. Company data. This is where you're going to tailor it to who you're talking to. For the federal government, they want to know your UEI and your cage code. Having those makes them realize and know that you're ready to do business with them, because you have to have those in order to sell your product or service to the federal agency. In the federal government, they like to know NAICS codes on the product or FSC codes. But if you're talking to a state of Ohio agency, they utilize UNSPSC codes. Other local government agencies might use NIGP codes. So make sure when you're putting your capability statement together to market to that agency, you're marketing with the correct codes and certifications that apply. Like the socioeconomic certifications, that's where they belong in your company data. For federal, are you a small business? Are you WOSB? Are you 8A? Are you HUBZone? State of Ohio agency, different. MBE, EDGE, DBE, different codes, different certifications. Again, they vary by agency. Do your market research and tailor it to the business that you're, or the agency that you are applying to be a contractor for. You might want to put a little summary paragraph in there about your business, that you're stable, you've been in business this long. You could put in there, a DUNS number is no longer required, but some agencies still like to look at it. So you might want to put your DUNS number there so they can check your credit worthiness. And one thing I see a lot of folks forget is to put someone's name on there. Put somebody's name and an email address, the person that's going to be responsible to responding to government agencies that you've got on your firm. And if you're a one-man shop, that's you. But sometimes people have a dedicated salesperson just for government. Put their name, email address, and phone number on there. Make it easy for them to reach out to you. Now, here's where I like to talk about appearance, making it match a corporate website, but make sure that it's really clean. Don't use a lot of colored backgrounds or things because it makes it difficult to read. Don't use a lot of colors and fonts. Some people are colorblind, so think about that when you're putting together your color scheme on your capability statement. Make it really crisp, and your copy points, bullet points are always easy to read. And remember, make sure you're using those keywords and the section headers. If it's going to be read by AI, you got to make sure it's being able to find those words that are important to that agency or business. Use those section headers to organize it and make it easy to read. And then make sure it's printed on nice paper when you're going to the Ohio Business Matchmaker. You don't need to laminate it or anything, but you don't want it on see-through paper that's easy to rip. Just make sure it's on a nice sheet of paper that makes it easy for you to hand out and the government buyer to take back with them. You're also going to want to create it as a PDF file. That's when you're going to use it to email to folks. PDF files are smaller and get through government spam blockers. Little helpful hints I like to talk to my clients about doing is on that past performance section. When you're trying to pull it together, an easy way to do it is each time you complete a contract, whether it's a commercial contract or a government contract, consider writing what I call a success story. It's something I used to do in my past life. Every time we completed a project, I would write a little synopsis on what we did. Name the project, the dollar value of the project, and what the services or products that we provided for that contract. Keeping a library of these success stories organized by project type. When you're putting together these capability statements or even responding to government solicitations, you've got it all organized right there so you can pull in and tailor a capability statement much more easily, and you're writing it right as you got it finished so it's easier to remember what you did. Again, as Billy said, make sure you're doing your research on the agency or the contractor before you put in your capability statement. So you've got all the pertinent information that they're going to be looking for about your firm. And as Billy also stated, don't waste their time by not knowing what they do or what is required to work with them. If they require, one of the things I like to point out, some of these primes, they require that you register with them. They've got to doing business with us. Or some of the agencies might have a database that you also have to register in. Make sure you do that first before you stop marketing to them so they don't just kick you back and say, well, you got to register before we talk to you. So do that little research on those agencies and primes to make sure you know what they want. This is something that NCM.gov, this is another way to market yourself to government buyers, not just at these outreach events, but there are sources sought notices. And these are posted in NCM.gov. And it's when the government buyers are doing some market research. They want to know, are there any small businesses out there that can do what we need to have done? And oftentimes they're going to just ask for your capability statement. However, sometimes they're going to ask for very, very unique things. So you want to make sure you read through those sources sought notices carefully and revise your capability statement to make it fit what they're looking for. You may need to create a uniquely designed statement or response depending on their request, and make sure you include all the information and the formatting that they're requesting it in. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples here, some recent sources sought notices that I went over with some clients. So they asked for just a fairly generic capability statement on the first one, but they were asking very specifically on how the company's capabilities met current industry standards. So they were going to have to speak against the industry standards and specifically how they met them within the corporate way of doing things. And another one, it was a lot more involved. They were asking for capabilities, but they were asking for a white paper. And they wanted it to be 12 pages long, and they had very specific formatting on how it had to be double spaced and a minimum font size, and they are having a cover sheet. So it wasn't just a straight capability statement. There's going to be a lot more involved. So when you're reading through on the sources sought notices and SAM, make sure you read through them thoroughly. And then you could reach out also to your Apex Accelerator counselor, and we'll read through it with you and help you figure out the formatting and review this with you. And just reach out. We're here to help. I help clients on both of these. So little good thing how Apex accelerators work. This is a redundancy, I think, from Billy's, but we provide free one-on-one client appointments and group trainings. We love helping you. This is my contact information. This is a really brief overview, but we help clients. I help clients almost daily on their capability statements. Your Apex Accelerator counselors are set up to do that. And this
Karen,
is
we have
really
a question.
Sure. I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, should you include photos either of key personnel or past projects and capability statements?
You can, as long as it doesn't detract from the information. And here's something I was talking to some people recently. Obviously images can enhance a statement and can enhance, as long as it's enhancing what you're talking about. One of the things that I do know, if you're using that image to talk about what you did, make sure it's also in the copy. Because again, if it's being scanned through by AI does not scan images. They scan the wording. And so if you're emailing it to folks, they're not going to be able to scan the image of proof that you could do. Make sure it's correlated with the text that you put in there. But utilizing images of projects or products is really important to make it look nice. It can be. Just make sure it doesn't detract from the space you utilize for your content. The content is key.
Karen,
Thank
can I add something to
Yep.
that real quick?
Mhm.
Make sure if you have two different versions, one is electronic and one is printable, don't use a GIF, right? So, that might work for an electronic one, but when you print it, the picture doesn't move. So I had a client one time who,
Oh.
yep, they had a electronic capability statement. They had GIF, moving pictures in it. And when they printed it, it looked terrible because when it's printed, the picture doesn't move. So they were using that to demonstrate what they were doing, and it kind of got lost in translation there. So.
And one other thing I do like to point out too, let's say you're a supplier and you're offering a lot of products and you're going to put the logos in there. Again, AI can't scan that. And one of the things I want to point out too, sometimes if you're going to use logos, make sure you have the company's permission to use the company logo in your marketing materials, because some companies can get really touchy on that. So, but you can list them out in your text that you offer those products. But if you're going to use logos, make sure you've got permission from the firm. And again, because in the new AI world that we're in, logos aren't scannable for pulling in on AI.
I did not know that. So, yeah, that was a good tip.
Yeah.
And the gifts too. We're
Well,
just
I've
in a
never heard of
different
the
world.
gift.
Yeah.
And I've had some people also, I recommend, like they say, to know what we're doing, they put a link to their website. Don't make them do that. That's extra work. I mean, you can put your website link on your thing, but if you're going to talk about, go to look at our website to find out our past performance, put it on your sheet. Make it easy for them. Don't make them work to find out, because they get a lot of these. Make it easy to find for them. And again, do that market research like Billy said.
All right. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? And again, this recording will be available on the Ohio Business Matchmaker website in about a week, as will the slides. Hopefully everyone learned quite a bit today. And if you're feeling like it's a little bit too much, don't worry. That's just that's how government contracting works. So it can take a couple of trainings to become familiar, but that's what we are all here to do, is to assist you in this journey. So there will be another webinar training today at 1 o'clock. It's doing business with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and the Federal Environmental Protection Agency. So how we have organized these trainings, it's in 2 tracks. So this, the first track of training is for companies that are new to government contracting. The second track includes not only new government contracting, but those that are a little bit more seasoned and may have wanted to get information on how to approach certain agencies. So if you're available, and I'm not sure if registration is still open for it, but if you could send me an email, I can see about getting you on that training for today. And all of the additional trainings, our next 2 trainings will be on April 10th. And then we'll have them on April 17th and April 25th. So, and then, we'll finish it all with the actual matchmaker next month. But thank you everyone for your time today. I do not see any additional questions, so we'll just go ahead and end it early. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Joey, for setting this up and just making sure everything ran smoothly. Greatly appreciated.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.